International Society for Krishna Consciousness, our saviour, Srila Prabhupada. So I'm going to read the meaning of Sri Vyasa Puja. To fully understand the meaning of Vyasa Puja, we first, now, I guess it's okay. Is that muffled to you? Can we get a bit of clarity on that rather than that muffle? You know what I mean? Les did it last night, and I don't know what he did, but he knows what he's doing. See how you go. To fully understand the meaning of Vyasa Puja, we first need to understand the meaning of Guru. Throughout the Vaishnava texts, the prominence of the spiritual master's role in a disciple's spiritually successful life is repeatedly emphasized. One must worship the Acharya, who is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Discipleship is a two-way street. The aspiring disciple requests his or her selected guru for initiation, and conversely, the guru examines the qualities of that person to determine his or her suitability as a candidate for initiation. This selection, acceptance process is not banal. Like a job seeker attending an interview with a potential employer. Anybody know what the word banal means? Boring? No, mundane. Mundane. Banal means mundane. Like a job seeker attending an interview with a potential employer. When Krishna sees that the jiva is sincere, he makes the arrangement for the living entity to come in contact with the bona fide spiritual master. Our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, commented that Chaitanya Charitamrita instructs that the Guru is the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, according to all the evidence given by the Shastra and by the practical behaviour of devotees, one must accept a Guru. But what kind of Guru, specifically, must one accept? Srila Prabhupada explains. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a definition of Guru. Yareteka tarekaha Krishna Upadesh. The bona fide Guru is he who advises his disciples exactly in accordance with the principles spoken by Krishna. The bona fide Guru is he who has accepted Krishna as Guru. This is the Guru Parampara system. In one sense, Vyasadeva is the original Guru. Srila Prabhupada explains. The original Guru is Vyasadeva because he is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein everything spoken relates to Krishna. Therefore, Guru Puja is known as Vyasa Puja. In the final analysis, the original Guru is Krishna. His disciple is Narada, whose disciple is Vyasa, and in this way, we gradually come in touch with the Guru Parampara. Srila Prabhupada's devotion and immeasurable service to the previous acharyas, Sri Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are proof of his position as the empowered devotee, the Senapati Bhakta, who revolutionized and transformed our lives in the gloom of Kali Yuga. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj writes, Kali Kalera Dharma, Krishna Nam Sankirtana, Krishna Shakti Bina Nahe Tara Pravatana. The fundamental religious system in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Unless empowered by Krishna, one cannot propagate the Sankirtan movement. In June of 1970, in response to a letter from Tamal Krishna Das, who had inquired about the perfection of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada wrote, a spiritual master is always liberated. In any condition of his life, he should not be mistaken as ordinary human being. Throughout my whole life, I do not know what is illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating or gambling. So far my present life is concerned, I do not remember any part of my life when I was forgetful of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada also explains in Srimad Bhagavatam that one who is surcharged with transcendental love of Godhead can without difficulty see the personality of Godhead in every atom and every movable or immovable object. And at the same time, he can see the personality of Godhead in every atom and every movable or immovable object. And at this, I think I repeated myself there, sorry. And at the same time, he can see the personality of Godhead in his own abode, Goloka, enjoying eternal pastimes with his eternal associates. Sitting in Srila Prabhupada's quarters in Mayapur in 1976, during his daily afternoon darshan, I personally heard him explain this point. When an inquisitive disciple asked him if a pure devotee sees Krishna everywhere, Prabhupada held out the cupped palm of his right hand and replied, even within a drop of water, the pure devotee sees Krishna and his associates and all of his pastimes. This was a mystical moment when we caught a glimpse into Srila Prabhupada's transcendental inner world. Later I read in Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord's pastimes are also being televised in the heart of such a devotee. The allegory of the man who found a gourd lying on the road points to the ingenuity of the bona fide guru. This traveller later found a stick on the path and then a wire. In themselves, the separated items were not particularly useful, but by putting the gourd, the wire and the stick together, the man made a veena and began to play beautiful music. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada came to the West and, as described in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, found some rejected youths lying here and there, and by Krishna's grace, the combination was successful. As a rock thrown into a pool creates powerful ripples affecting the entire body of water, Srila Prabhupada brought the holy name to the West, purifying a degraded world and indeed inspiring monumental, although not universally acknowledged, change in the broader society. The ripples have eventually become a tsunami, inundating the world with the nectar of Krishna's names. Temple-based kirtans have inspired the practice of chanting these sacred sounds even in more mundane circles. We witness this with the popularity of kirtans at yoga retreats and similar venues around the globe. An essential element of bhakti yoga is therefore to worship and serve the pure devotee. Mad bhakta puja. Krishna advises that worshipping his pure devotees lost my place. His pure devotee is better, this should say than, missing here. Krishna advises that worshipping his pure devotee is better than worshipping him directly. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Paiti Keba, says Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Without serving a devotee, one cannot be released from material entanglement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself also instructed us to become not servants of Krishna directly, but servants of the servant of Krishna. Worship of Srila Prabhupada on Vyasa Puja Day is not restricted to those who took direct initiation from him. For ISKCON to continue to flourish, it is imperative that all ISKCON members honour Srila Prabhupada's appearance day for at least the next 10,000 years. Why only 10,000 years? Inspired by love and respect for his divine grace and deep gratitude for the sacrifices he made for the good of humanity, keeping our founder Acharya as the focal point of our spiritual society will assure that our spiritual lives will thrive. Shifting the focus spells disaster. I think we should probably now open up that door so that people can come in for darshan. That's the idea, actually. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada has uniquely presented the philosophy and practice of bhakti yoga in a way that is accessible to anyone, regardless of age or gender, background or birth. He has indeed cut the knots of material attachments from the core of our hearts, just as he referred to his spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as a Vaikuntha man. So we too describe our Srila Prabhupada as no ordinary spiritual master, but as Lord Chaitanya's Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of his army of devotees. This honorific is not to be taken as exaggeration or dismissed as an overflowing of the sentiments of his followers. In Sri Chaitanya Mangala, Srila Lochana Das Thakur describes how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself predicted the future appearance of a great Senapati Bhakta. Taking the sharp sword of the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, I will root out and destroy the demoniac mentality in the hearts of all the conditioned souls. If some sinful people escape and giving up religious principles go to far-off countries, then my Senapati Bhakta will come at that time to give them Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is without doubt that Senapati Bhakta, to be honoured by all Vaishnavas. In 1967, due to ill health, Srila Prabhupada planned a return to India to recuperate. His impending departure in June of that year caused much speculation and deep concern. Could his neophyte disciples carry on if he never returned? In chapter 12 of the Hare Krishna Explosion, Hayagriva Das writes, some of the devotees, worried that Swamiji had decided to go to India to leave his body, asked him whether, during his absence, one of his godbrothers should come to America to assume ISKCON leadership. The minute this question was presented to him, we sensed that it was offensive. Swamiji became very grave, closing his eyes and, For a moment, he seemed to consider it. Then suddenly, we saw tears falling down his cheeks. My Guru Maharaj, he was no ordinary spiritual master, he said, wiping away the tears. He saved me. Later, Swamiji told us what we should have always known. There was no one to replace him. The very idea was insulting. If someone comes and tells you something different, he said, you will be confused. The subject was dropped forever. Srila Prabhupada writes in the concluding words to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, although, according to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada passed away from this material world on the last day of December 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. I think that His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. It is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done is through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I have full faith in the service of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is all due to His Divine Grace. In a Srimad Bhagavatam purport, Srila Prabhupada instructs us how to worship Him by paraphrasing Guruvashtaka verse 7. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has advised that the spiritual master, acting on the Supreme Lord's behalf, must be worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Lord. For He is the Lord's most confidential servant in broadcasting the Lord's message for the benefit of the conditioned souls involved in the material world. The Vyasa puja ceremony therefore celebrates the transcendental position of that spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession. He is the supreme personality of Servitor Godhead. The introductory paragraph of this essay discussed the importance of accepting a guru in the disciplic succession as an essential step for advancement in Krishna consciousness. Additionally, the kind of guru is of critical importance. That spiritual master is one who has himself served a pure devotee in the disciplic succession. Trying to develop spiritual life without accepting a bona fide guru will lead only to failure. In March of 1975 in Atlanta, on the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada delivered a discourse in which he emphatically instructed his disciples on the importance of accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So, try to receive Krishna's grace through the disciplic succession coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then you will understand everything. Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tata guru. This is the process, Vedic process. One should have unflinching faith in God and spiritual master. Don't jump over to God, crossing the spiritual master. Then it will be failure. you must go through. We're observing Vyasa puja ceremony, the birth anniversary of our Guru Maharaj. Why? We cannot understand Krishna without spiritual master. If anyone wants to understand Krishna by jumping over the spiritual master, then immediately he becomes a bogus. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Guru Krishna Kripai Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That is the Vedic injunction. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. Nobody can understand Krishna without going through his most confidential servant. This is the meaning of this Vyasa puja. You cannot surpass. If you think that you have become very learned and very advanced, now you can avoid the spiritual master and you understand Krishna, that is bogus. That is the meaning of this Vyasa puja ceremony. We should always pray, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha. Yasya prasadat. Only by the grace of the spiritual master we can achieve the grace or mercy of Krishna. This is the meaning of this Vyasa puja. Offering obeisances by the parampara system. Further exploring the meaning of Vyasa puja, we can pose this question. How should this sacred and ancient tradition be conducted? On February the 25th, 1970, on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Vyasa Puja Day, the Los Angeles devotees saw Srila Prabhupada offer arti to a large picture of his Guru Maharaj. After the arti, he directed his disciples in offering flowers to the picture of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Still standing before the picture, he said he had nothing to offer his spiritual master on that day except his disciples. He then read aloud the names of all of his disciples. By contrast, in Tokyo later that year, on the 74th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance, it was apparent that the devotees did not know how to observe the etiquette of celebrating the spiritual master's Vyasa Puja. He asked the devotees whether they had not seen how he had observed the Vyasa Puja of his spiritual master in Los Angeles. Confused by his request for the pushpa, flowers, devotees brought pushpana rice instead. You can read about that pastime in My Glorious Master. Srila Prabhupada scolded his disciples for concocting and for acting improperly. He said that in devotional service, everything must be done properly according to the parampara method, without fabrication. The next day, wrote Satsvarup Das Goswami in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, a simple traditional ceremony was performed and the devotees felt ecstatic. By pleasing the spiritual master, then everyone is pleased. All the practitioners of Bhakti Yoga are duty-bound to be loyal servants of the parampara system, being mindful of the correct way of performing devotional services to the Lord and the spiritual master. Thus, the Vyasa Puja celebration epitomizes the true meaning of faithfully following in the line of our Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, without deviation and with full concentration. The Vyasa Puja Day is the grand and solemn occasion when we join together throughout the world to honour our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. With hearts full of deep spiritual emotions, we meditate on the sacrifices he made out of love for his spiritual master and for all of us. Like the sparrow trying to dry up the ocean, we attempt to glorify him and express our deep love and respect for him. In a letter to Balimardana Das, dated August the 25th, 1970, Srila Prabhupada wrote, "The spiritual master is the representative of Vyasadeva because he carries the message of Vyasadeva throughout the world. As members of ISKCON, we specifically rededicate ourselves to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, the great representative of Vyasadeva, on Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day. We can also resolve that every day throughout the whole year we will rededicate ourselves to serving him and his movement, and remembering that Srila Prabhupada is always with us through his Vani." Again, in the Lilamrita, Satsvarup Das Goswami recounts the intense feelings of separation two members of Srila Prabhupada's fledgling movement experienced due to his impending return to America in December 1967, after a 6-month sojourn in India to regain his health. When the day for Srila Prabhupada's departure finally arrived, he gave last instructions to Achyutananda and Ramanuja. "Just pray to Lord Krishna that I can go to America," he requested Achyutananda. "How can I?" Achyutananda replied. "You'll be leaving me." "No," Srila Prabhupada replied, "we'll always remain packed up together if you remember my teachings. If you preach, you will become strong, and all these teachings will be in the proper perspective. When we stop our preaching, then everything becomes stagnated and we lose our life." If we remain sincere and honour Srila Prabhupada not only on his Vyasa Puja Day, but every moment of our lives, his ISKCON will continue to thrive and our lives will be successful. We will remain packed up with Srila Prabhupada. The mission of the spiritual master is the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada's mission is our mission. That is the true meaning of Vyasa Puja. Krishna Rupa Devi Dasi. That's our, can we say our Krishna Rupa? Hang on, what's happened? Battery. What happened, gentlemen? Okay. Oh, thank you. That person's phone reminded me I hadn't put my phone on silent. That could have been embarrassing. Adore, adore ye all the happy day. Blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle. Struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, your divine grace. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face. Adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, paying most heavy the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all distress, the only hope, your divine grace. Message of service thou hast brought, a meaningful life as Chaitanya wrought, unknown to all, it's full of grace. That's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity thou hast removed. This gives a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold, that's your right. You have the mace. Save me, a fallen, your divine grace. The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress, miracle done, your divine grace. Srila Prabhupada wrote this poem in February 1935 on the occasion of the Vyasa puja celebration of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It delighted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, especially the sixth stanza, which he felt captured the essence of his preaching against the Mayavadis. After reading this poem, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was especially keen that Srila Prabhupada preach and write in English. The following version of the poem was prepared from two sources. The version Srila Prabhupada included in the March 1952 edition of his Back to Godhead magazine, and the version he wrote by hand on the back of a letter he sent to Roy Ram Das on March the 20th, 1969. In Jamuna's biography, she tells the story how Srila Prabhupada was presented this poem by, I think it was Guru Das, who found it in the Harmonist magazine that was printed by the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada was very happy because he thought that poem had been lost. There wasn't a printing extant at that time. And so he was very, very happy that that poem had been found. Of course, later it was found in the Back to Godhead and in other places. Okay, I'm going to read the homages from our GBC. Okay. This is from Ramai Swami. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane. Srila Prabhupada explains in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. By the mercy of the Guru, even a dumb man can become the greatest orator, and even a lame man can cross mountains. As advised by Lord Brahma, one should remember this Shastric injunction if one desires success in his life. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, purport to Canto 6, Chapter 7, Text 23. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam we find this passage. Yamaraj once asked Maharaj Yudhisthira, what is the most wonderful thing within this world? Maharaj Yudhisthira replied, from the Mahabharata Vana Parava 313, 116, Ahani ahani bhutani gaschanti ha yamalayam seshaha stavaram itschanti kim aischaryam ata param. Hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment. But a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful thing in this world. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Text 57. Yamaraj, who appeared in the form of a crane by a lake, asked further questions, and Maharaj Yudhisthira replied, I shall try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Please ask me what you will. What makes the soul rise out of his entanglement in matter? Who keeps him company? Who is his guide on that spiritual journey? And on what is he established? It is knowledge of the Supreme Lord which makes the soul rise. Godly qualities are his companions. Dharma is his guide, and he is established on truth. Yamaraj asked Maharaj Yudhisthira many more questions and was completely satisfied by his answers. In the journey of life, one needs profound knowledge, not only of the material world, but of the method to go beyond it. Unfortunately, most people in Kali Yuga have no true understanding of these things. Only those on the path of devotional service, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, can begin to comprehend. In the Australian Yatra over the last few years, a number of devotees have left their bodies and gone back home, back to Godhead, or at least to a higher position in this material world. One, in particular, my dear godbrother Venugopal Das, I'm sure went back home, back to Godhead. I had known him since we were young brahmacharis, travelling and serving in different temples together. From early on, I knew he was a special devotee, and as the years went by, I became more and more convinced of his Krishna consciousness and spiritual advancement. Venugopal was the type of devotee who could have a loving, affectionate relationship with anyone, regardless of who they were. I visited him in his last days and was so inspired by his association that I thought, somehow I have to become like him. Venugopal was very attached to you and dedicated to you, Srila Prabhupada, and it was you who showed us how to live our lives and prepare ourselves for the future. By your instructions, you paved the way. By your example, turned night into day. You showed us how to live and die, to go beyond the material sky. Your mercy and grace for us to gain, although for some it was a strain, within our hearts pollution stored, still your lips sweet nectar poured. At your feet we bowed and said, let the dust fall on our head. We wanted to hear more and more. You were a great sage of holy law. In Shastra so divinely skilled, perfection of life to be fulfilled. You lay so clear before the eye the spiritual deeds of days gone by. Chaitanya's messenger, lofty-souled, you preach to us so uncontrolled. Siddhanta's disciple, the lion's son, went to the west. You were the one. People were in awe to have your sight. From that moment, their future's bright. For most, it was a gigantic leap from conditioned life, so very deep. The human span should not go in vain. Ignorance and bondage must be slain. It's useless to suffer and lament for something so quickly spent. Give us the strength to keep up the fight. Maya is strong with tremendous might. By your compassion, the mercy bestowed, with your grace reach the spiritual abode. Jai Srila Prabhupada, your lowly servant, Ramai Swami. Quite a poet, Ramai Swami. Don't underestimate the devotees, ever. At your peril, if you do. And I'm speaking from experience. Dhamrita Swami. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. Especially on your divine appearance day, I first strive to express my unbounded gratitude for your purely transmitting the Maha Mantra, a bestowal apparently so simple, yet truly so miraculous. As the years and decades in bhakti pass, increasingly even this lowly disciple can catch a glimpse of the reality that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur declared. In all 14 worlds there is nothing to be had except the holy name of Krishna. Next, I urgently thank you for opportunities to engage the senses in Krishna's service. For the past 2 weeks I have been meditating on the words in your purport to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 12, Text 13. A devotee has no other ambition than to serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Krishna consciousness movement was started to engage people 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord and in His glorification. So, that was one of your foundational motivations. You began ISKCON as a device to engage people 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord. In the current ISKCON context, how can we fulfill this desire? It would seem that whether devotees live in their own home, in an ashram, or in a devotional community, somehow every devotee, regardless of one's accustomed level of bhakti intensity, should have ready access to the impetus, the inspiration, and the capability, the techniques for engaging in devotional service morning, noon, and night. To you I acknowledge, although so inadequately, my eternal indebtedness for your pure gifts of the Maha Mantra, accompanied by absorption in devotional service. We call out to the whole world, tactfully yet persistently proclaiming that even in this most desperate and degraded era, your process, inherited from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, certainly works. Aspiring to be your servant, Devamrita Swami. Nice. Okay. Who'd like to read an offering? Shastra? Who else is here? Yeah. Go first.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for this day.
Let's have a microphone. Who's in charge of the mics? Is it turned on, Shastra? First?
No. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for this day and allowing me to be here. Vyasa puja, a time for thinking back. Contemplate all the offerings to Srila Prabhupada in playback. Imagine 1,000 disciples' offerings over the years that seek to exalt. Imagine if they had been collected and put into a vault. Then at some future time period, they would be there for others to study how effective Srila Prabhupada's life is to share. Prabhupada's work being the unlocking of the vaults of so many a heart, enabling the delicacies of spirituality to be nourished into that fresh start. Those memories may be beautiful and yet be like a song. Your Srila Prabhupada, we have the benefit of holding on to belong. Oh, I remember the occasions of sitting in your association with so many others, invited guests, various leaders of commendation. Would it be that you were trying to convert them all? I think now it was more that developing of that linking call. The opportunity to build bridges of understanding, speaking to connect, always onward expanding. Foundations for the framework of a new world order where we work with the other to create beyond all border. That golden rising time of this our dawning alternative, that all those here now can see more and more this imperative. Srila Prabhupada, you stand alone as that over-travelled sage, all that global travelling at such an advanced age, kicking the thought of any retirement always to the side. You travelled always, eager in plans even to do the untried. Even in your own disciplic succession, who before you travelled into such progression? Have any God brothers or disciples been able to do more? For it is even exhausting contemplating all that you cared for. From you we learnt of Vedic magnificence and cosmic history. We learnt of other realities and planets with higher life. All those past connections advancing as a future coming mystery. And given was the direction into that royal road free from strife. You gave so much in all on the ISKCON front line. You even gave us physical contact with the divine, bringing forth godly forms from the east to the west, allowing us to bathe and dress deities so all could be blessed. Your thoughts into the beyond, taking deities out on engagement, grand processions that surprise so many as they look on in amazement. I remember London, travelling so many years on the Rath cart there, the processions spreading, becoming that transcendental global affair. Jagannath, dear Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, all on station, manifesting their divine forms of ecstatic permutation. those divine forms coming into bold visibility as a gift. Srila Prabhupada, you are the giver of such an ever-expanding global shift. Let us go further into ever contemplate your spiritual sprite. Jagannath is black, Subhadra yellow, and Balaram white. They are one family coexisting to lead us onward all together. Imagine a one-world family of such colours smiling into such sunny weather. Srila Prabhupada, you came to the West and established your ISKCON, so in touch with inner direction, sensing unfoldment and how to leance. You gave female disciples equal initiation, no me too, rather blossoms into full bloom. You gave us all endless blessings of opportunity with that way into the deity room. Treasured memories, allowing artistic imagination to dawn more and guide, connecting with, being able to dress deities around the world side by side. I remember in London the thought comest to connect with Jagannath more. It was to do the impossible for a fair one to enter through his Puri temple door. Yet in that divine connection we learn nothing is impossible. Like a divine conversation we learn for each of us all is possible. The message from Jagannath was to use or bring his colour into that episode. Stage makeup was the entering into the excitement of my Lord's Puri abode. Was I actually there? Yes, I was. Subhadra, equally bold as her brothers be. The divine feminine, the Me Too concept ever emerging free. The feminine, numerologically the number 2, into this more than one can align. So in this 2 millennium, now how much more can we build bridges that shine? The divine feminine, the essence of the essential, that contemplation evenly placed into the holy name's potential. Hari placed before Krishna, and then again Hari at the end. As with the mention of Rama, another combination to divinely apprehend. Such a divine connection to be aware of the past and for the future. ISKCON's years, remembering those occasions of abrupt wrangling and discomfiture, patriarchy and conflict, yet remembering as the old song goes, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Now for that balance, sister and brothers all being that open-hearted bhakti lover. Srimati Subhadra, the divine, certainly a name to call one's newborn as a key. And some even say it was her who kidnapped Arjuna as her husband-to-be. Standing in Puri before their lordships was so breathtaking, even standing back. All I wanted to do was get closer. This was, though, our eternal desire of lack. Jaya, Jaya, Srila Prabhupada. You came into this realm to create unfoldment. Your legacy orchestrated into newer technology, so you're with us to ever reinvent. To give ancient Vedic wisdom that nectar so more and more can respond. And your tireless, erudite scholarship amazed scholars and those beyond. Srila Prabhupada, your coming into our lives necessitated us working with collective cohesion, propelling us here to be the best we can with positive divine intention. We here and beyond are all now family, moving into possibilities unceasing. You're turning us higher with that connection, hearts dancing together into the entrancing. One ISKCON family lifted up, giving out that love and transcendence, and with that higher cuisine to benefit the planet into wholeness and resplendence. Such a family here, warm hearts, smiling faces, capable, supported, guided. Your legacy, Srila Prabhupada, you did the near impossible with the love and bhakti eloquently worldwide provided. Seeking your blessings now and always. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Shastra Chakshus Das.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shastra. Prabhav.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivisheshunyavadi Pashtata Dashadarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I was just thinking of how fortunate we are to be connected to Srila Prabhupada. This is the Srila Prabhupada family. ISKCON family is Srila Prabhupada's family, and we are the many branches that people leave, but we remain in the main branch of Srila Prabhupada that we are proud of. Just like sometimes people talk about their royal family. They're proud of being in a royal family, but actually there's nothing royal about a material world royal family. So Srila Prabhupada's family is a real royal family because Srila Prabhupada's family is Krishna's family. So we are proud to be in the family of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada himself is so uplifting all the devotees. His mercy is like the ocean of mercy, just like we talk about the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is full of ocean of mercy, and we can see. I was talking about it this morning in the class that you see our temple here, and this is my second time in Melbourne. Janmashtami is such an success, a wonderful day with blue sky and sun shining, and people are coming. And people talk about Australia being such a nice place in terms of health. But when they come to our temple here in Melbourne, ISKCON, you can see people flowing in throughout the day. And last year wasn't the same as this year because last year was raining and wet and cold. But it didn't stop people from coming because they can feel this place is different from any other places. And Bhakta Prabhu was telling me that they had other places where they had Janmashtami, the other Indian temples. But still, when you come to our temple, this is the place where we worship Krishna. Everybody knows that. ISKCON is we are dedicated to Krishna. It's Janmashtami, if you really want to celebrate Krishna, is the ISKCON, because we always propagating in Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada's mercy is direct to Krishna. As we were saying, Srila Prabhupada is Senapati, commander-in-chief of the that showing us the path of Krishna consciousness. So if we want to be connected to Prabhupada, to grab onto the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, to get his ultimate mercy. So we want to have his mercy. That's just like when Prabhupada was in London, and they had a big Sunday Arati, and they said that, Prabhupada said that there was Narada Muni and Brahma was doing the Arati. And then the devotee said, we didn't see it. Prabhupada said, didn't you see it? He was here. He could see it. Mm-hmm. So then he said, what were they doing? Said, oh, they're just laughing at you. Because they're impressed by your Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada brought Krishna consciousness to America, where people, even me, when I came to the ISKCON in Mayapur, I didn't know anyone. I thought the only country in the world is America. Oh yeah, America. That's how I knew. So Prabhupada brought the Americans to India. And sometime I would go to the temple in Mayapur. I didn't want to actually see the deity. The reason for us going to Mayapur was to see the white devotees. And I saw Radha Madhava there at the back. So Prabhupada was always encouraging and with loving. And it wasn't easy in the 70s. It was a very austere place in ISKCON. But because of Prabhupada, his presence made everyone like a touchstone. And he touched the heart of all the people, the ignorant people of the world. So these temples in the world, in ISKCON temple, they are like the oasis. The Prabhupada made these temples. It's the only place you can really take shelter of. There's no other shelter. He would go away, he opened another place. It's not the same as Prabhupada's place. If you really love Prabhupada, you want to be here with Prabhupada where he is. So when we come to this temple in Melbourne temple or any other ISKCON temple, Prabhupada's ISKCON temple, it's a very touching the heart. And I was talking this morning, there's people from India, Prabhupada used to say, you scratch the surface of the Indian skin, the religion will come out. Because they can't not forget Krishna. So we are, Prabhupada, reminding the Indians to become Krishna conscious, and by bringing the Western people. I was just saying, in the 70s when in Mayapur, these foreigners, they were really heavy with the Gurukul boys. I was in Gurukul. And there was one Mataji from Los Angeles. She used to scratch my ear, clean my ear with a metal thing. And so I thought, this is like, they really wanted to clean me. Then I thought, I didn't like it. Then I complained to my mother, these Westerners, they're too much. She said, and you feel sympathy. But she didn't have any sympathy towards me as a son. He said, no, you have to listen to this Western devotees because they are coming from America. Prabhupada has brought them here. They're demigods. I said, oh, okay. So, Prabhupada,
and your ears were dirty.
What's that?
Your ears were dirty.
Yeah. And then, Prabhupada, he's raised the people from any background to the Vaishnava. That's his ultimate mercy. Prabhupada left India to go to America, where the people are needed the most. And these people, Westerners, they came to see Prabhupada even though, what karma do they have to become Vaishnava or Brahmana? So the mercy of Prabhupada is that this is the ultimate mercy, that he can raise them into the highest platform of Vaishnava. It's not that they have special karma, they're born in Shantipur, or born in Navadip, or Vrindavan, or Brajavasi, they're born in New York. And they're leading Krishna consciousness. And the people of India, they're looking to them as guidance, spiritual guidance. And myself even. And I was born there near Mayapur. And I didn't know nothing about Gaur Nitai, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here in Bengal. I heard it all from the devotees, Prabhupada's disciples that came from the US. Mm-hmm. So my point is that mercy of Srila Prabhupada is so great, and we have witnessed it recently. So Prabhupada is so glorious. When he describes someone or something, he may say, oh, very good, or very, very good, excellent. I would say it's beyond my imagination. You can take that way. So there's no word to describe the characteristic of a pure devotee of Srila Prabhupada. That's why it's mentioned there. Senapati Bhakta. He is the commander-in-chief of a devotee. And Prabhupada was the one who selected. The others went to America, and Prabhupada had so much love for Krishna. He could tolerate such heart attacks. I would be turning back. You know, and people go to overseas, they have hotels and they have money and they make sure they're okay, they're going to be Prabhupada. None of that. He was just the love for his guru. He wasn't depending on any material circumstances or conditions. He just went there out of love for his guru. And you know, he like you were saying that he felt, you know, his Guru Maharaj's presence wherever he is. Similarly, we can feel the Prabhupada is still here. And that, we can feel that in our ISKCON temple. You can really feel that here. You know, there's some people, they talk something or we have some problem with each other. None mind, because we always see the Prabhupada behind us. We are what we are here for, to please Prabhupada. Don't think it was easy in the 70s when Prabhupada was here. We never got gulab jamun and halwa and puri in those days. We had to wait for like a Janmashtami to come. We had to eat food for life that they made for everybody. And now we are getting every day. See, so, but because Prabhupada was here, we didn't mind those austerity because of love for Prabhupada. So similarly, today, all opulent we have is His mercy. And if we keep ourselves connected to Prabhupada, not just on Vyasa Puja Day, we say a few words to glorify Prabhupada, but just do service throughout the year. That's our life. Prabhupada gave his life to his Guru Maharaj. As we are his disciple, we should be following the example of our Guru. Give our life for Prabhupada. Life is so short. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai.
My father used to clean my ears too, and I didn't like it. Prabhu? There's
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padana Krishna Prastha Lisi Madhu Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharani Vasesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It's always so pleasing to hear Srila Prabhupada glorified. For me, the most ecstatic day of the year is always this festival. Janmashtami is ecstatic, but it's like it's the rising wave that you're about to catch. I don't know if any of you have ever been surfing, but you see the wave coming, you're getting all excited. So Janmashtami lifts you up, and then when Srila Prabhupada's appearance day comes, you're riding that wave of ecstasy.
There's no dumping either.
I just wanted to express my appreciation for all the devotees. Firstly, these festivals are not easy to do. Melbourne is a very congested temple. We had about 7,000 people yesterday, or maybe more. And somehow or other, they all go home happy. That's quite a feat. And the place is virtually cleaned. And I'm thinking, how did all that happen and go on? And I went into the kitchen last night. There was hardly any space. If you wanted to do service, I don't know whether there was any space to do any service. It was so busy. And Janmashtami is such an enlivening time because I see everyone is so happy and enthusiastic. And that sort of enthusiasm, it maintains us in our devotional life. The most important element in devotional service is sadhu sangha. And we should never underestimate that. And that's why I appreciate Janmashtami. All the sadhus come together and they're all serving enthusiastically. There were so many bright faces yesterday, I was looking at them all. And I was hoping I had to become bright-faced like them as well. It was so enlivening to see that. And everyone working together to preach to the guests, serve the guests. I've got something that I wrote about Srila Prabhupada, but I just wanted to express that appreciation firstly. I was also thinking back to my first Janmashtami in this temple and how things have grown exponentially due to the dedication and sincerity of the service of the devotees here. My first Janmashtami midnight feast, everyone fitted in the theatre. Everyone. We all sat down for the midnight feast. Now, I don't know if many of you must have seen it last night. It was like Burke Street on Christmas Eve. It was difficult to get in, it was difficult to get out. And if you wanted seconds, well, good luck. So it's very pleasing to see this growth. That means the preaching is having effect. And as Prabhupada was saying, to get the real Krishna, you've got to come to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. And that's why people come here and they find it so attractive, because there's real life in the temple. Sometimes devotees ask me, gee, it must have been really great when Srila Prabhupada was here, all those years ago. What was it like? But for me, Srila Prabhupada is ever present within ISKCON. It's not like he once was, and then, now all we've got is the Murti. For me, Srila Prabhupada is ever present and this is his pastime of preaching. And where his principles and his teachings are being upheld, Srila Prabhupada is ever present. And we can get his association. And we can also get his association by associating with those who are serving him very sincerely. So it's very wonderful that Srila Prabhupada is so ever present in his society. Srila Prabhupada once said that actually ISKCON is my body. So if you want to serve the body of Srila Prabhupada, find some service in ISKCON, whatever you can find. Pray for it or ask for it. And there are so many things we can do. The whole world is sort of unaware of Srila Prabhupada in many ways. And we hope that by distributing his books and distributing prasadam and maintaining our deity worship, that more people will come to know about Srila Prabhupada. Just a couple of other points I wanted to make also. Prabhupada was referring to Srila Prabhupada having his heart attacks. Now, Srimati Maharaji, when Srila Prabhupada asked her to sponsor him to go, she said, Swamiji, you will simply die there. Now, he almost died on the boat. What to speak of dying when he got there. But Srila Prabhupada's life is such a wonderful testament to his dedication and determination. And we can read Srila Prabhupada's life story and we'll find so much inspiration there to sustain us in our own devotional life, which can be tough. It's in essence, you can say Krishna consciousness is an easy path, but we've got this enemy called Maya, whose job is to keep us here in this material world. So to get out of this material world, we have to be very determined. And it's sometimes a long journey, and there are many temptations on the way. But we hope that through Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, his grand disciples, by their association we can maintain our strength in Krishna consciousness and keep on pushing on. Hare Krishna. I'll just read something I wrote this morning. During the 1970s, there was an entry in one of the world-renowned encyclopedias of the day, I think Encyclopedia Britannica, wherein there was a reference to what is a Brahmana. That entry was accompanied by a picture of our beloved Srila Prabhupada. We were all chuffed at that entry. The editors at the time had rightly referred to Srila Prabhupada as a Brahmana, even though they may not have fully understood the significance of that link. Actually, we find that in the modern world, people really don't have an idea of what a Brahmana is. A Brahmana is someone who actually works for the benefit of all other living entities. So it's a very special and elevated position. It doesn't just mean doing some puja in the temple and wearing a thread. A Brahmana, he works for the upliftment of fellow man. That's his duty and role. And as Srila Prabhupada stated, the duty of a Brahmana is to uphold his status, his own status, but not to simply be self-satisfied with his position, but to work earnestly to turn others into Brahmanas. Throughout his preaching life, he demonstrated this determination to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna, and thus elevate others to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada created many Brahmanas, and from all walks of life, and this is a testament to the power of the order of Lord Chaitanya. In essence, the process of Krishna consciousness is very simple: chanting, dancing and taking prasadam, all backed by the sound footing of the quintessential Vedic literatures which Srila Prabhupada so expertly presented to the world. Srila Prabhupada's preaching was not a new creation, but rather the expert and sincere presentation of the process of perfection given to the world by Lord Chaitanya. Simply by this process of chanting, dancing and taking prasadam, chanting and dancing and taking of Krishna prasadam, the whole world can be changed from what is in essence a very destructive course. Srila Prabhupada stated that it was his intention to start a revolution in consciousness. And as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta stated, there is no lack of anything in this world except Krishna consciousness. From the moment that Srila Prabhupada met his spiritual master, we see that he quickly became convinced of this fact, that the whole world needs Krishna consciousness, and that this is the solution for the individual and collective perfection of human life. We can look to Srila Prabhupada's example for inspiration for anything desirable to achieve in spiritual life. As the founder Acharya of ISKCON, we should always look to Srila Prabhupada as the perfect example of a devotee and preacher in this modern world, especially going into the future. Srila Prabhupada stated this movement is society which saved the world in its darkest days. Srila Prabhupada was forever the optimist about the potential of the Sankirtan movement to alleviate the suffering of a misguided civilization. He has even stated that by following this process, the whole world can be turned into a Vaikuntha planet. All we have to do to achieve this is continue chanting, dancing and taking prasadam. Distribute the books and the whole world will have a bright future. And without it, well, you wouldn't want to stick around. We thank Srila Prabhupada for everything he has given to us. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I think Nara just snuck in. You're next, Nara.
Oh, right. I stand up?
Stand up, sit down. Your choice.
Mam Shubhadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nirvase Sunyavadi Paskachari Satayate Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Good.
Today, of course, we honour Srila Prabhupada. It says we should pay respectful obeisances to the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. And on his Vyasa Puja Day, we make even a greater effort to recognise, to commit ourselves, and to render some service. Bhagavad Gita teaches us that we have to inquire in a submissive way and also render service. It's a 2-pronged approach, if you like. How do you render service to the spiritual master? many ways, and all of them are quite blissful. Prabhupada has given us so many opportunities. I couldn't help but notice yesterday how exquisite the deities were dressed. And someone had gone through so much trouble. Not trouble, but devotion. To see all those almonds. They were almonds, right?
Quite a few.
Yeah. so someone must have spent many, many hours.
Yeah.
Blissful. I'm sure a very blissful service. And just stringing flower garlands together. Such a simple thing. Yesterday morning I was fortunate to help cook an offering for the Lord. Some simple sattvic presentations that Krishna is pleased to eat. So Prabhupada is very munificent. It says that when it rains, it can rain all over the land and even over the ocean. Not that the ocean needs any rain. Because the rainfall is munificent, it rains everywhere. So Prabhupada is very munificent, and he's given us so many pleasing ways to render service. There's 9 principal practices, but they're all very pleasant. So we're very grateful to Srila Prabhupada to give us the opportunity to serve Krishna. I was just reflecting on it yesterday that Prabhupada established so many temples throughout the world. And most of the temples, if they were large enough, he established deity worship. So Krishna has come to live in all these cities throughout the world. And we've made a commitment to Prabhupada to look after, not that we look after Krishna, but mistakenly, in our illusion, we think we're taking care of Krishna. This is his house, and we have to keep it nice and clean. We cook the offerings. Krishna's dressed very nicely. And we're all humble servants. It's a very ingenious, if you like, method of enabling us to get purified and to enjoy one another's company. Prabhupada is like he is the spiritual father of all of us. And in this way there's such great peace and harmony. Prabhupada gave the example once, in a house with a family, there might be so many members. And then one comes home, and another comes home, and the mother of the house might say, well, what shall we make for dinner? What would you fancy? And if she's unlucky, the children will all demand a different dish each. But it wouldn't work very well. So what you're supposed to do is see what the father wants. And the wife cooks for the husband, and everybody has to take. This is the kind of like Krishna consciousness with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is our spiritual father. If we all do what pleases him, things work very nicely. And he's made it so abundantly clear what gives him pleasure and what is not so pleasing. And he often say you have to learn to cooperate together, work together. We use a lot of analogies. One of them is we describe ISKCON, the Krishna consciousness movement, as being like a boat or a big ship crossing over the ocean. There are many storms, and sometimes it can even be a bit scary. But you know, if you've got a good captain, he'll get you to that port. He'll get you home safely. In the same way, if we all want to ultimately achieve Krishna's lotus feet, the benefits that come from achieving Krishna's lotus feet are absolutely incredible. You're going to live eternally. You're going to be full of bliss. You're going to be full of knowledge. There'll be no hankering, no lamenting, no illusion. You can only imagine what that state of being would be like. And just like sometimes we go on a holiday and we imagine what's it going to be like when I get there. It's going to be a nice place. I can relax. I can sit under the palm trees. I can eat nicely. And we get quite excited. We look forward to it. So in the same way, Prabhupada, he's come from Vrindavan, actually, from Krishna's place. He's told us all about it. We've got the brochure. We've got the ticket. All we have to do is get on that boat. And what is that? That means to simply serve Krishna in the temple here, hear his holy name, associate with his devotees. That's all it requires. No other effort, really, just to do those things. So it's become very, very simple for the souls of the Kali Yuga. So we must remain very, very grateful. Because by Prabhupada's mercy, who knows, this could be our next life. And if we can even get remotely close, then our life has been successful. Otherwise, you can have a lot of money, you can have a PhD, you can have a passport, you can have a good family, but what's the use? Mm-hmm. You can have all those things anyway in Krishna consciousness, but ultimately you can go back home, back to Godhead. So thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada. You're the spiritual master for the whole world, for at least the next who knows how many generations. And it's our business to spread the good word that you've given us and involve others and bring others in, because that's the most pleasing. Of all your activities, the most pleasing is to try and introduce others to Krishna consciousness, to share your good fortune. Don't be a miser. It's not always easy, but if you have a neighbor, a friend at work, a relative, just give them a little bit of Krishna consciousness. This is very pleasing to Prabhupada. So we should all try and make an effort to do that in the next period of time. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. No. Gokularani?
Only one mic?
Oh, there's two, but I've got one of them. Yeah, throw it over. No, pass it over, sorry. This is how you move things on the deck of a ship. Maybe the devotees can move a little bit. I see there's a bit of space. Come closer. What's one of the purposes of ISKCON? Come closer to Krishna and each other. The more successful we are, the more closer we'll become, especially in this temple room.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. Not only among hundreds and thousands, but among millions of perfectly liberated souls, a pure devotee is hardly ever found. So how rare it was to have had Srila Prabhupada come to this material world. Huh? Okay. So I start again. Not only among hundreds and thousands, but among millions of perfectly liberated souls, a pure devotee is hardly ever found. So how rare it was to have Srila Prabhupada come to this material world. We're all really so fortunate that Prabhupada came. I myself didn't have a lot of close association with Prabhupada, but back in the 70s I used to see the devotees on the streets and think to myself, I could never become a devotee really, because in those days they didn't wear shoes, and you would always see the devotees in doing Harinam and giving out back to Godheads and simply wonderfuls. But after I heard Prabhupada speak in the Melbourne Town Hall, things changed. And although I wasn't intending to become a devotee, a few months after hearing Prabhupada speak, I joined the temple in London. And I'd sort of travelled overseas to try and avoid doing that in Melbourne. But then so it happened after hearing Prabhupada's words. And the sentence that really stuck home was when he said, so try to understand and prepare yourself to go back to Godhead. That is the business of human life, and all other business is simply a waste of time. So I tried to put that to the back of my mind, but it didn't stay there. And so it says in the Nectar of Devotion, a pure devotee's words enter one's heart. And I think perhaps that was the experience that I had. And Prabhupada once also said that if someone has a desire to become a devotee but it's not very intelligent, then Krishna helps them. So maybe that was there as well. So Srila Prabhupada was truly remarkable in many, many ways. Although he could be very serious and grave, he could also be very quick-witted and joyful. And he'd say that being joyful is a sign of spiritual advancement. Sometimes he'd like to make fun of scientists and bogus gurus. He once described a yogi who would throw all the gifts he received into the Howrah River to demonstrate his detachment from the material goods. Then at night, he pulled the gifts out of the river with a fishing net. So in this way, Prabhupada had a lot of wit and wisdom. And one day someone said to Prabhupada, "You look very beautiful today." And Prabhupada replied, "Why just today?" Prabhupada would often speak about the material world being full of anxiety, that everyone suffers even from a small ant right up to Lord Brahma. At that time, Richard Nixon was the President of the United States. And Prabhupada once said that Richard Nixon's a big man in the world. He's President of the US, but he was full of anxiety. And then Prabhupada would say with humour, and now he's lost his presidency, he's still full of anxiety. So it's really a testament to Prabhupada's greatness that he's worshipped every day in all of our temples. And when I tell people that at the ripe old age of 69 he travelled the world and started our movement, people are absolutely amazed. Not only that, he would sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, be constantly active, and yet he was so humble. He would say he was only following his guru's instructions and just trying to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya. So, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
Where's the mic? Oh, mine's back. You want to say something? Okay, just pass it to Gyana. Gyana Samudra. Gyana Samudra over there. I look like Gyana Samudra, but I'm not. Sometimes people think we're brothers.
I get all the glorification.
I think we're full. We're pretty full. What's that?
Upstairs being live stream, so if this group would move forward as much, and then
How many people are upstairs?
you can fit in more people upstairs. It's live being.
You can't fit any more people upstairs?
There's a room upstairs. There's plenty of room.
Plenty of room. So why do we have to squeeze? Why can't they go upstairs? Huh? Send them upstairs. That's why we created it. Live streaming upstairs. Anybody here want to go upstairs for some live streaming? No, they don't want to go. So, and please don't sit behind that because people are coming in for darshan. You can go upstairs and live stream. What to do? Gyana.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bicharne Nivasesha Sunavari Pashkichari Dastarne. So I actually was introduced to Srila Prabhupada personally. but I was introduced to Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And in the same way, I'm getting introduced to you, disciples of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. It's actually quite wonderful to have your association, you know. The disciples of the spiritual master are like at the Ganges River. Your association is so purifying, you're like little drops, and all together combined into a river that flows towards the ocean. In that river, anybody who comes in contact with it, like the Ganges, becomes purified. Just in the same way, well, my life, and Srila Prabhupada introduced me to his disciples, has become purified. So never underestimate the association of the disciples and the devotees of the Lord, especially those that are engaged in Krishna consciousness. If we just let our intelligence give us guidance, you know, then life is actually very, very enjoyable. Just like yesterday, you know, we saw the manifestation of Radharani's mercy. It wasn't our own endeavor, it was Radharani, you know, that presented Krishna such a wonderful birthday. You know, we're not capable of cooking a fabulous feast like Srila Prabhupada is getting today, or the preparations that Krishna got yesterday. He kept a smile on his face all day, and keeping a smile on his face today, eternally. But it's Radharani's empowerment. If we see that, you know, then actually we're always association with Radharani in the spiritual world. It just takes a little intelligence, that's all. You know, just a little intelligence, just turn it on and see the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and what he's given us, the gifts that he's given us beautiful deities, fabulous temple in which we can clean and engage our gross senses in and become purified like a black piece of coal. You can turn it into a diamond, in which we've all become diamonds, that necklace of Krishna consciousness. He's given us basically our whole life. If it wasn't for him, we'd be very, very frustrated people. You know, we'd go through 70 or 80 years of our life, and at the end of it, like so many people that we know around us, there's nothing else. Basically, it's just birth, old age, disease, and death. But here we are, the cream of Melbourne, in Melbourne Temple, celebrating Srila Prabhupada's Appearance Day and appreciating the gifts that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So if we can just take that with us at home and again appreciate the company of the Vaishnavas. You know, I'm so proud to be, as I said, I didn't get much of Srila Prabhupada's association, but I did get Prabhupada's, you know, the association of his disciples, you know. And that in itself is completely satisfying. And I'm indebted to you all. Please.
What's our schedule? Are we having the RT at 12:30? Looks like it, right? Yeah, okay. I might insert myself here, if that's okay. Humbly insert myself. Or maybe not humbly. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakada Mahiyam Dadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. We had such a wonderful festival yesterday, or at least I had such a good time. I hope you all did. Not much anxiety for me, actually. People say to me, "Oh, you must be busy, it's Janmashtami." I say, actually, no, it's not busy for me. I'm not doing anything. Well, actually, not that I'm not doing anything. I'm worrying about the next festival. And, you know, how we're going to move this juggernaut temple. Of course, you know, it's not really big, but it's certainly big enough, and it's a lot bigger than it used to be when I came to Melbourne in 1978. You know, one of the reasons why I was attracted to coming to Melbourne, because the devotees from Melbourne came to Adelaide, and in Adelaide it was tough. It was rough. There was no hot water in the showers, right, for example. And the devotees noticed that I would always go home to have a shower because it was warm water at home and it was cold water at the temple. Then one night, Chammi Jaya went out and he came back to the temple dragging this huge big water heater behind him. Right? And the devotee said, "Where'd you get that from?" He said, "Don't ask any questions." So I noticed when the devotees from Melbourne came that they had nice wigs. This is how you tell the opulence of the temple. They had nice new wigs. Siki Pucha used to look like, you know, he had this terrible wig that was sticking out all over the place. And what's his name? Neelachala also. And the devotees from Melbourne had nice kind of like clothes on, all neat and tidy, whereas the devotees in Adelaide had, you know, my clothes. So when I saw the devotees from Melbourne, I thought, "Ooh, they look pretty together." And it was one of the main reasons why, well, not one of the main reasons, it certainly was a contributing factor in my deciding to leave Adelaide to come to Melbourne. Because Melbourne was, in those days, it was I guess it is even now, the jewel in the crown of ISKCON Australia. That's what I was told when I became the temple president. You've got to look after this place because this is the jewel in the crown. And you know, I've been meditating on what are we going to do? What are our next steps? Which is important. You know, this is our offering to Srila Prabhupada. Everything that we're doing is for his pleasure, ultimately for Krishna's pleasure. But we please Radha Vallabha and Gaunitai and Jagannath Balaram and Subhadra by doing what Prabhupada wants us to do. And Prabhupada must be pleased by all of the devotees, the service and the surrender, and which culminates pretty much every year in the Janmashtami. It's kind of like we see the results of our preaching, but we've got to do more. This is not enough. We can't rest on our laurels. We need to increase. So even though I may not be actively engaged in doing things at Janmashtami, although last night I was greeting guests and shaking hands and making friends with people. I was engaged, but I don't usually get involved these days in the detailed management. We can thank Sukadev and Prabhu and so many devotees for looking after the festival. But I'm always thinking, okay, what is the next thing that we've got to do? Because my job as a leader is to think what we should be doing next. And in one sense, we are now reaping the results of 30 years of preaching, especially in the 90s. We made a decision to cultivate the Indian community as somebody, did you say? Prabhupada said, the Indians have bhakti, he says Krishna consciousness in their blood. Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness in their blood. And so it's not difficult to, and Prabhupada says even the Muslims, right? Even the Muslims, this is in the Bhagavatam, or is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Right? So we made a decision, and I knew that because I was selling books, and selling full sets of books, and in the course of my preaching, I was meeting a lot of the Indian families. I was also making members, signing up life members, and I knew that, and of course that was scary for me, because I couldn't tell Bangalore from Bengal. I didn't know the difference. Somebody would tell me, I'm from Bangalore. I think, where's that? What is that? I feel the same trepidation when I talk to Chinese people now, and I ask them, where are you from? And they tell me some place, and I think, where the hell is that? Right? So we made a deliberate course of, we took and I think it was ISKCON wide. We've seen that in ISKCON, that and in one sense, the Indian community has supported us, has reciprocated. Everybody's become devotees, and in one sense, that's kind of saved ISKCON at a time when there was a lot of change. People don't live in temples anymore. People live in ashrams in temples. So the environment in which we were preaching at that time had significantly changed. And so we needed to develop a congregation. But effectively, and we see now, of 30 years of that cultivation, we see hugely successful temples, festivals like Janmashtami yesterday. But of course it also then underlines some of our weaknesses as well. Just like this temple's just not big enough to fit everybody in. I don't know if you've noticed. Ask the people who are not inside. Right? And there's a lot of people, you can hear them. We can hear there's a thronging crowd outside in the courtyard. Must be people upstairs as well. So that means we need to start planning for the next 30 years of our preaching. The Indian community is only 5% of Australia's population. Right? So what are we going to do? And Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't tell Srila Prabhupada to go to the West to preach to the Indians, right? Although he didn't say don't do that. Or in some cases he did actually don't do that. He did say don't do that. In Kenya and other places, England, because it's not that we shouldn't do that. We obviously should. The authenticity of ISKCON is demonstrated in the fact that so many people from India, when they come, most of you didn't come to Melbourne to become a Vaishnava. Why did you come to Melbourne? Get a degree, right? Get a job, get married, have a family, send them to good schools, be successful materially. Of course, you've got material success, but also unexpectedly spiritual success, right? So my thinking is, what are we going to do to as a community, and it's a community effort. We saw yesterday, wasn't just, I used to try to manage Janmashtami by myself, or not by myself, with others, but I used to try to keep track. I've still got the spreadsheets and the project files of Janmashtamis of the 2000s and of the 90s, where I was working on every detail and assigning all of the tasks. I don't do that anymore. Fortunately, because we've got so many devotees who manage everything nicely. And there was a point in time where I realised I'm going to drive myself nuts if I try to keep track of every single detail that goes on around here. Right? You can't do it. It's not possible. So much of what we do in ISKCON, especially preaching, requires the effort of so many people. Right? And so I've been thinking, okay, how are we going to connect? And this is something that we all have to embrace as a service to Srila Prabhupada. It's what he wanted. And even Prabhupada himself did, is to think, how are we going to connect to the other 95% of the population that lives in Australia? Right? This is a big challenge for us. An example, Shyam Sundar Krishna is going door to door around his neighbourhood doing book distribution. Right? But he's frustrated because people aren't responding. They're taking books, maybe even giving donations, but they don't want to come to his house for a program, neither do they want to come to the temple. So he's saying, Prabhu, what am I going to do? Right? So this is an example of the challenge that we face. How even the devotees who are preaching at Mantra Lounge and making friends with students at the university. But how many people do we see want to embrace Krishna consciousness and come and participate in our community? How many? Not many. No. Although urban yoga, we're getting success. People come, but it's like my wife knows how to test when the spaghetti is cooked. You know the test for spaghetti? She throws it up on the splashback above the stove, and if it sticks, then it's cooked. So we throw people up against the splashback, but they don't stick. Right? But this is our challenge. Srila Prabhupada he faced this challenge when he came to America to preach. Right? And he was up against a culture that he just didn't have any experience of. But while he was there, he was, observing, acknowledging, interacting in such a way so that he worked out how to connect. So that's something we have to do. That's our challenge for the future, and as our future service to Srila Prabhupada. And we know people who was anybody here when Ted gave his speech last night? Anybody here? A few people. We know that there are people out there who really appreciate ISKCON. Did you see when he left? You would have really enjoyed it, Bhakta. He went out, and then as he walked out, he started going, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. He knew the mantra too. It wasn't just, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna. It was the mantra, the full mantra. Who was leading the kid? The boys that were leading the kid. They were like, wow, who is this guy? And he's such a nice person. And up there, he was responsible for, in good part, for initiating the whole $500,000 that we got for the kitchen, for example. Right? So, there are challenges. This is not going to be a pushover. That's what I'm saying. We've just had 30 years of relatively successful preaching. Challenges, no doubt, but by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of Radha Vallabha, Gaurnitai, Jagannath Balaram Subhadra, we were able to, really put ourselves on the map here. But if we want to be really effective, we've got to now work out how are we going to connect to the other 95% of the world, at least our world. All right? So there's my worry at the moment. My concern is, and I'd like you to take that on as well. And, it's something we have to think about. We need to talk about and experiment. That's what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada was not averse to trial and error, R&D, right? That's what we call it, R&D, research and development. We know what it is. It's not difficult, actually. Not like it's not rocket science how the Hare Krishnas preach, right? It's the holy name, right? And we've got more devotees going out on Harinam at the moment, and congregational groups doing Harinam. Book distribution. Book distribution is increased this year. We've sold, was it probably $30,000 more books this year, up to July. And the book scores last month or so, I don't know if you've noticed, they're booming. So more book distribution. I was talking to Dave Mrida Maharaj the other day. He told me the best devotees come from those who meet book distributors. Right? So book distribution. This is what we do. Chant Hare Krishna, distribute books, prasadam distribution. Right? This is how we connect. The tricky part is, what do we do after we've connected with people and they're interested, or they're in that stage of, I don't know, that point of hesitation or just introduction. And a lot of that is just cemented by friendship. In fact, no preaching. You could almost say preaching is don't preach. Right? Although that sounds contradictory, but just people want to be, like I was saying to Shyam Sundar Krishna, they don't trust us yet. They don't trust you. They don't know you. And so part of our influencing people, just like people like Ted Baillieu and people who are in positions of power, we've been able to influence those people over a long period of time just by being civilized, almost. The Hare Krishnas in the 70s were almost uncivilized because they're always trying to sell people books, even despite the fact they already had a Bhagavad Gita and a Nectar of Devotion and everybody had them, right? And so when they see a devotee, they think, oh no, here come the Hare Krishnas again. Let's get out of here, right? So it's more of a more subtle approach to influencing others so that they become amenable to Krishna consciousness. And in some cases, that's maybe all that they do, right? But of course, we're looking for the sadhakas, or we're looking for the devotee, those who want to become more serious and to make more of a commitment to Krishna consciousness. So I would like to suggest, as our offering to Srila Prabhupada in the next 30 years, we can start from 2020 if you like. Although for me, it's 78 is that's my what do you call it? My point of reference. So we are immensely indebted. Actually, we are so indebted to Srila Prabhupada, we cannot repay him, Prabhupada says. We can't repay Srila Prabhupada what we owe him. But if we, but even though we can't, that doesn't mean we shouldn't. Right? In fact, we must. It's our obligation to attempt to repay Srila Prabhupada what we owe him. And he says the method is by which we show our appreciation for that indebtedness is by preaching. And of course that means that's a big challenge. It is not easy for us to work out these strategies and the means by which we can achieve that goal, whereby we start to influence. Our influence should increase, should expand. But we're seeing the guests that came. I was talking to Andrew Bond and Martin Foley and actually, you know what I was doing yesterday? I was looking at Wikipedia and Google, right? But I was looking up all their details. I thought, this is on John Mustamy, here I am. I'm on the internet, and I'm looking at all their details and working out how should I address this? Because you've got to know, there are honourables and there are counsellors. You have to know how to address each one. You have to remember their names, and you need to have something to talk to them about. So I was doing research on each one of them, just to make sure that I got it right. So anyway, they were asking me, how many people are you getting here? Well, there's only 5,000 here at the moment. Actually, Ted said, interesting what he said. He said, I was in Delhi last year for Janmashtami, and he said there was only 1 million people there. But he said, Janmashtami in ISKCON Melbourne is better. Right? He got a shock because when he got there were so many people. He got a shock when there were so many people. Actually, he came at the quiet time. It wasn't so bad. But we could see by the organisation of the devotees, we can actually do it. There were so many people here and they're all going, this way and that way. But everybody knew what they were doing. And everybody was super peaceful. It was quite amazing. Right? Just the mood, the atmosphere in the temple. And just a note, it was interesting at midnight, there was this intense meditation amongst everybody on the campus. And everybody was sitting down with a plate of prasadam in front of them. They were deeply meditating on that. So anyway, we were able to organise the festival. I'd like to thank everybody who participated. Some special mentions, I guess, to Sukadev, who coordinated all of the volunteers. He's primarily responsible for me not having any headache. Guru Gauranga Krishna, who organised all of the clean-up. Right? Yeah. He fielded the complaints from the neighbours, right, of which there were a few. And he also went and cleaned up all of there's this immigration agent who every year comes and plonks his cards on all the cards around the neighbourhood, all the cars, right? And they're not going to the guests that come to the temple because they couldn't get a park around here anyway. So it's going on all the neighbours' windscreens, right? And of course that annoys. So anyway, Achincharupa and Guru Gauranga and a few devotees went all around the neighbourhood, all the blocks, down as far as Neville Street, picking up all of the cards of this migration agent. We already told him 3 years ago, don't do this. Right? So they keep coming back. Anyway, community relations is a sensitive issue, right? And our neighbours don't particularly like having something put on their windscreens. It'll just... Of course, they'll think of Krishna. Oh, the Hare Krishnas. So Prabhupada says that's good, but on the flip side, it's not so good. Who else was there? Bhaktiman and the devotees who did all of the decorations and the deity worship. Jai Sachi, who's probably still in the kitchen now. He started on Saturday, and we warned him, take it easy. This is a marathon, take it easy. But huge. I went into the kitchen last night with Martin Foley and I think there was about 30 devotees in the kitchen cooking. And the brat pans, every time I went into the kitchen, the brat pans were full, completely full of subject. I said to them, you can't put any more in that? So the Sankalpa Chaitanya, Kripa Siddha, I'm not sure who the other devotees are. Huh? Oh yeah, okay, but the crowd controllers and the that's under Kripa Siddha, and who else is it? Dhira Shiromani, he did the serving out, right? Yep. The Qatar family, they'd already done $6,500 on Sunday for the Mahaprasadam distribution. And selling a lot of Achincharipas. What normally a Achincharipa would cook for the Saturday pizza party, they sold on Sunday. Yeah. So, on Saturday. No. Oh, okay. What's today? Monday.
No, Sunday.
What's today? Tuesday. Oh, right. Okay. Tuesday. Sorry. So on Sunday they'd done already very well. Churu Chaitanya and Guru Gauranga again, Ojasvi, I don't know how many thousands of dollars worth of boga they collected in the weeks coming up. Most of the prasadam that we've distributed over the weekend and for the next few weeks, maybe even the next couple of months, is donated by our support, by the merchants in Melbourne. So we'd like to thank those devotees as well. And I think that's about it. What's that? What do they do? Crowd management, yeah. Okay. And the kirtan, Nitin, wasn't it? Nitin and Dvija. Yeah, we had really well organised kirtan on Sunday and yesterday. And, it was very interesting to see the people coming in for the darshan. And then when they got the kirtan, I could see them, they're really, people struck by the effect of the Maha Mantra and the atmosphere and mood of the devotees. Okay, I think we should finish here. Of course, we also have to thank His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, for the opportunity to be here. If it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, then none of this would be happening. And any success that we might have in the future is going to be dependent on his mercy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Okay, so we'll have men on the left of Srila Prabhupada's right, our left, and the ladies on this side for Pushpanjali and Guru Puja. pass it up.
Thanks, Dave.
Yes, please. If everybody like to take some flowers, please. Thank you.